Cocaine, mushrooms, ecstasy.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Acura Audio Garage. Today we continue the DIY Pro Series on our second generation Acura TSX. We're going to upgrade our subwoofer and we're going to be looking at factory subwoofer options. Your factory subwoofer is going to look like this. It is rated for 40 watts. It has a final impedance of 2 ohms, and then you can see it has a proprietary mounting pattern and a proprietary connector for when you go to connect a new subwoofer. So those are things you need to keep in mind when you go to replace this sub. If you're just looking to see how the subwoofer comes out, I'm going to play a quick 30-second clip, a mashup of me taking the entire back panel apart, getting the subwoofer out, and you can see how it's done. So after that played, if you're still with us, we're going to cover some of your subwoofer options. So we're first going to look at our subwoofer options, then we'll talk about the tools we'll need, then we'll cover the disassembly, and then the reassembly. The most important part to this all is that when you go to put the rear cover back on and all the covers, that everything fits, there's no excessive rattle, and you don't have a subwoofer that's hitting against the rear deck. All right, so all the subwoofers we are looking at have the same characteristics. They're all 8 inches like the factory sub. They all are either 2 ohm final impedance or can be wired to a 2 ohm final impedance. They're all going to fit in our adapter bracket, and while some aren't marketed as free air environment woofers, they all can work in a free air environment. You heard me mention the bracket, and this is the bracket I was referring to. So the factory subwoofer has a proprietary mounting mechanism. So it has these ears. This bracket allows you to install an aftermarket subwoofer by mounting the bracket to the vehicle and then the subwoofer to the bracket. Now this bracket is about 1/4 inch thick, a little bit more of 1/4 inch. So when you add this and then a subwoofer, you add about 1 inch of thickness, if not more, depending on the subwoofer, to the rear deck height, if that makes sense. So the distance between the rear deck and where the subwoofer sits has decreased, and now they're come closer together and they might rub depending on the subwoofer. On the factory sub, the surround of the rear deck touches right against the subwoofer to get all the bass up and out, and that's why you see this ridge right here. So that ridge might touch against the top surround of your new subwoofer and either cause it to sound bad or make it so that it rattles. So in order to combat that, I'm going to show you some solutions at the end if that's what happens to you with your install. You can use longer retaining clips, or you can trim the surround of the rear deck cover, or you could just not use the bracket, drill new holes. It is a weird angle, but you can kind of come up from underneath if you measure them right. So you have a couple different solutions. We find the bracket really makes things easier, and we're going to do our installation with the bracket. All right, so I'm going to give you a breakdown on the subwoofers. I'm going to cover what I think are the most important 3 features, which are going to be the voice coil configuration, the power rating, and the price. Voice coil configuration is important because we want 2 ohm final impedance so that we can work with the factory amplifier. We're going to test these subwoofers on the factory amplifier, on our plug and play amplifier, and on the kicker key. More on that later, but that's why we want to make sure we have dual 4 ohm voice coils or a 2 ohm single coil so we can get our final impedance to 2 ohms. So we have the IX-8D4. Important that it's the D4 dual 4 ohm voice coils. We're going to wire it in parallel to 2 ohms. This has a power rating, max RMS power rating of 150 watts, and it's about $45 on Amazon. So then we'll move on from there to the kicker subwoofer upgrade that we sell, or the kicker sub. I showed you earlier which model it is. We sell this for $100. That's USD. The price I gave you earlier is USD. This is a dual 4 ohm woofer that you wire in parallel down to 2 ohms, and it has a max power rating of 200 watts RMS. Along with that kicker, you have its brother, which is the CWR. This is also a dual 4 ohm voice coil woofer that you wire in parallel to 2 ohms, has a max power rating of 300 watts RMS, and you could probably find it online on Amazon for about 99 to like 120 to 99. Then we're going to move on to the Audison woofer. So this is going to be one of the stronger woofers along with the kicker. This is the APS 8D. This is also a dual 4-ohm woofer that we're going to wire in parallel to bring it down to 2 ohms. It has a power handling of 250 watts RMS, and you can find it on Amazon for about 220 bucks. This thing sounds amazing in a small box. We're going to see how it sounds in a free air environment, but this would take the lead over all of these if we were putting them in small boxes that we were going to tuck away somewhere. But all right, the last one we want to cover, actually we have 2 more to cover. So the other one we want to cover is the AP8. Now the AP8 isn't a subwoofer, it's a full range speaker. It can only handle 100 watts RMS, and it's a 4-ohm final impedance. But I want to show that to you because that location, when you're doing a big system, you could turn into a traditional speaker instead of a subwoofer. So if you're running big subwoofers in the trunk, you could use that 8-inch for a loudspeaker and really get a lot of voice out of an 8-inch woofer. So we'll take a look at that, and then of course we're going to take a look at the subwoofer that we're planning to launch at the hopefully end of this year, beginning of next year. And I said it earlier, but it is a 2-ohm single voice coil, power rating of 150 watts. And I think price on this is going to be between $80 and $100 USD with everything you need. So the bracket, everything. The bracket, if you're looking for it, we have it on our website. It's $20. Comes with the bracket, the screws, and the harness. We haven't covered the harness yet, but I'll show it to you later on. So before we move forward, I want to give you a very big disclaimer. All the specifications, the power ratings that I gave you, and some of the specifications on the boxes of these woofers are specific to if you're using them inside of an enclosure. In our case, we're using them in a free air environment. That rear deck is not sealed in any way, and even though you close the trunk, it's still not a sealed enclosure. It is an open air environment or a free air environment. I forget what the technical term is. I'm going to spell it out once I realize what it is. There's a technical term for it. But our woofer is rated for 150 watts RMS in a free air environment. Kicker doesn't advertise their woofer as a free air environment woofer, but we've been selling it like that for ages, and we've had no issues. We've done numerous tests and had no issues, so we know that it all works correctly. The other ones, we don't have enough feedback or information yet to say that these are going to work as expected in a free air environment. The general rule is that in a free air environment, whatever's on the box, you have it. So the Kicker Comp R isn't rated in a free air environment, but you know that you are safe to use it up to 150 watts because it's rated for 300. And that's the general rule. It's not always going to apply. We might blow one of these up using them with only 100 watts. Who knows? We'll figure it all out in the video, but I just want to give you that disclaimer because if you go buy a sub that's rated for 500 watts, you put 500 watts to it, and you can deal with the rattle, but then it ends up blowing up. It's because it was meant to be used in an enclosure or a box, and you're using it in a free air environment where it's kind of working against itself or not working optimally, so then it ends up getting damaged. So that's my big disclaimer to you. If you're using any of these subs, I think you'll be fine, but with other subs, that issue might arise. All right, YouTube, I'm in Florida. It's hot, it's raining. I'm gonna take advantage of this because it's a little drizzle, and it's gonna cool the car down so I can get in there and get the disassembly done. Before I jump into disassembly, let me show you the tools we're gonna need. A 10mm socket, either long or short, an extension, a ratchet, trim removal tool, even though you could kind of get away with this. So this to remove clips, this to remove trim, but I get one of each just to be safe. Along with the tools, there might be 2 other things you want to pick up. That's going to be these retaining clips. These are for your C-pillar, so this is what secures the C-pillar to the car. When you remove your C-pillar, we're going to squeeze these, and putting them back to normal is annoying, so buying new ones might be easier. You can find these on Amazon. I'll have the link down in the description. We also have instructions that show the actual part number and the link to this. The item you might want to pick up or take a look at is sound deadening material. So this is from Ballistic. This is their wedge kit. This is 2 12x24 pieces, which should be enough to cover my rear deck. We'll see. And here's what the actual box looks like for the wedge kit. I almost forgot, if you're getting sound deadening, you're going to want a roller as well. This is to help apply the material. I'll show it all to you later, but those are the tools and the optional accessories or other parts you might need. Let's get into the disassembly. I'm going to give you a quick overview. To remove the rear deck, we're going to have to fold our seat down. We're going to have to release this C-pillar and that C-pillar, and I'll show you it has a retaining clip we're going to have to collapse. After that, we're going to detach the rear deck from this cover here. I'll show you, and then we have to remove the third brake light. All right, so the first thing we want to do is remove this bench seat. We're going to have one 10mm bolt back here. We're going to need to reach in with our ratchet, and we'll be able to then be able to release these retaining clips underneath the seat to get the bench out. The reason why we have to remove the bench is so it gives us access to remove these on either side. Our 10mm bolt is right down the middle. we're gonna stick our tool right in here and get it out. So we got our 10mm bolt out. Now the seat has a retaining clip that you pull on. So let me get you an angle here. So you pull it back like this and it releases the seat. Sometimes the seat won't want to release, so you'll massage this up and down until the clip releases. Now with both clips released, we just want to watch out for the seat belts, and then we're going to begin pulling this up and out. So now our seat is out. You just want to be careful with this. You don't want it to scratch up your leather or the interior of your car. This is very lightweight, so one person can easily take it out. Now with our same 10mm, we're going to remove this bolt that's securing this side bolster and the same bolt on the opposite side. So to actually get this thing out, you're just going to lift up and out, and you're releasing this hook from right in here. All right, so with our 10mm, we're going to loosen this bolt and take it out. After that bolt is out, after this bolt is out, we're going to take this side bolster and push up. It might take a little bit of force. There we go. But it'll come out. You're releasing this hook from a hole in the metal up here. So now both of them are out. If you were wondering, this is your XM tuner right here. So you could steal power from this if you don't like XM, but it's a very low power line. But this is where the antenna that is on the roof comes down to. But all right, let's move on to the next step. We already pulled off our C-pillars. I'll roll that video. I don't think we needed to remove these, but I'd rather remove it all, show it to you properly on video so I can give you better advice on how to remove it. Because as you could see, that side bolster wasn't really covering much plastic. We could have kind of maneuvered this out of the way, but that's all right. I'm going to put my seats down now, and then we'll continue with the disassembly. Is releasing our seats. Then we can fold them down. Then we can fold the other side down. And now we have a better look at what we need to remove. So this right here is two separate pieces. We're going to unclip them from each other, but we're first going to remove our C-pillars. To remove our C-pillar, we're first going to remove the weather stripping, and then we're going to try to get this to peek out a little so that you can see the clip. I'm going to try to get my camera in there. There we go. So that right there is what's holding, and we're going to have to collapse that clip, and I'll show you in a second. If this is your first time ever doing something like this to your car, I recommend disconnecting the battery and leaving it disconnected for the duration of this installation. What is behind those C-pillars are your airbags. So when we go to collapse this clip, if you hit it in the wrong spot, you might trigger an airbag. And that's the last thing I want to happen to you. Is you're trying to upgrade your subwoofer, you blew an airbag, and now your little weekend project turned into a nightmare because you have to replace that airbag. So disconnect the battery, leave it disconnected for the duration of the video. In our case, I'm not going to disconnect it, so I know exactly where the clip is and how to hit it to get it to release without having to pull power. To get this C-pillar out, you are going to smash this area very hard. You could do it with your fist or with a mallet. The instructions call for a mallet. I'm going to show you exactly where to hit it. You want to hit it right here hard. Oh man, it's still not collapsing. Give it another whirl. I can't get this one with my hand. I'm gonna grab a mallet. So my fist attempts have failed, so we're gonna use a mallet. You just wanna make sure it's clean. This is a weighted mallet, so we'll have some force to it, and that should have taken care of it. Yep, my clip has released. You can see my mallet wasn't that clean, so make sure yours is, because I left a mark. Now with that clip collapsed, it'll just pull out just like this. Remember, I couldn't get this far before, and now you have other clips that just need to come out. Oh, sorry, I didn't need to use that much force, but that's really all that holds this on. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then I'll show you the clip. So here is the clip we collapsed, and this one's metal, but you can get away with a plastic one. Let me just get it out of here. It does not want to come out. There we go. So here's the clip we just collapsed, and you can see it is metal unlike this one that is plastic, but they will work the same when you replace them. And this, once the clip has collapsed, there's no way to take them apart, and that's why these need to be replaced. But we'll show you a little trick to heat these up. You can pry them apart and reset them to this position. So I have released it past this little first ridge right here. That's probably going to be the hardest. Now I'm going to continue coming up. I'm just going to flex these back, and I'm going to want to use a little bit of heat. And there you go, my clip is as good as new. This will still hold, this will still collapse the way it needs to. And if what happened to you, if what just happened to me happens to you, you're just going to apply pressure from the back and flip these back down. That's how you can reuse these if you want to. I don't recommend it, but if you're ever in a tight spot where you need to just put it back momentarily, this will get you there. All right, so that cover is completely off, and you can see the AM FM antenna lines right there. So now we're going to do the same to this side. We're going to take our mallet, we're going to whack right here. Just one hit should be enough. So that should have collapsed the clip. Now we can pull our weather stripping back and pull this. Now we can pull this out. Oh, come on. Okay, now we can release those clips and then pull this up and out. All right, for the rest of this disassembly, you're gonna have to get in there, so make sure you bring all your tools and everything you're gonna need, and maybe a towel to wipe your sweat because it's gonna be hot in there. But let me jump in. You see I put my bench back. I'm leaning my seats against there. I'm actually just gonna lean in. So like here, I'll let you see me. I know I look crazy, but I'm leaning in so I have more versatility. And this is the first panel that needs to come off. So it's two panels. One is like furry carpet and the other one's plastic. So we're going to get this out first. We're just gonna start here with our seatbelts. Come on. So we'll snake our seatbelts through. This is the seatbelt that they call for removal because there is no slit for it. So I'll show it to you in a second. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna slide this seatbelt through. Our middle seatbelt doesn't have a slit, so we're actually gonna unbolt it from the car. I'll show you that next. All right, so something I did off camera is I removed this, but I think I already showed that to you. Now you're gonna take your trim panel tool. You're actually gonna come from the back forward. So right there, you need to be able to get underneath to pry this panel away from that one because this is clipped into this one. So we're just gonna use our trim panel tool, try to get it started and slid under there. There we go. And then we're going to start prying up. You should hear clips releasing. There we go. So with that trim panel piece, I was able to release this, and now you'll see I do have some of it touching there and over there, but it has enough flex where it'll come loose. So you just want to be careful. And now this panel is loose enough where I can maneuver it out of my way and continue with the rear deck. Now something we don't want to forget before we start prying up at that is to disconnect our third brake light. And to disconnect it, you're just gonna twist it. So it's just a little bit tricky, but it just needs to twist off. All right, so to get this out, you just spin it and pull back. It is hard to get out. It was kind of stuck for me. I had to use a pair of pliers to twist it. You want to make sure you disconnect that third brake light. Then you can begin popping the panel up and then pulling it back. It's going to be a super tight fit, but you'll be able to get it out like this. Okay, now here's the panel. Here's the surround we might have to deal with later. We'll see how it goes. But now that we got this out, we can remove the 4 bolts that hold our subwoofer. Alright guys, to get our subwoofer out, it's just 4 10mm bolts, and we're just going to remove them all. With our last bolt off, we can then remove the subwoofer. It has a gasket on it, so sometimes it likes to get stuck to the metal. So you can take your same pry tool, stick it into one of the edges, and just raise it up like that. Then we just have to deal with the Honda connector. You're just going to squeeze the sides and pull it down just like that. Now with the subwoofer disconnected and unmounted, we can just easily remove it. If you're trying to do a really big sub, this just only has a couple of spot welds in place, so you can drill these out, and then there's a secondary piece of metal here that you could mount something to. I wonder if you do that, I'd love to see it, but we're gonna mount our sub right on this. All right, before you continue with anything, you want to grab your retaining clip removal tool and grab all the retaining clips that got stuck. You can look at the panels and see where they're missing. You can also just look at the rear deck and you'll see clips there that should be on your panels. So you want to grab all of those, put them where they belong before you move on. So in your instance, you'll be doing a straight upgrade. You're going to put the bracket down on a new sub. We're going to compare the sub options I showed you earlier. So we're going to test them on the factory amplifier, on our plug-and-play amplifier, and on our kicker key. So let me show you the amps real quick. So this is your stock amp. This is about how big it is. It powers the entire car. Here's our plug-and-play amp that we have hooked up, just kind of snaked in the way. And here's the kicker key. So you can see they're all kind of similar in size, but they do have different power outputs. We're going to use the same 3 test tracks, and we're always going to leave the radio settings flat. We're going to use the aux input off of a laptop, and we're going to keep the battery tender on the battery so we have a steady power supply with our car not running. Now we're first going to look at the factory subwoofer performance on our 3 separate amps with our 3 separate test tracks, so we have reference. Then I'm going to remove the factory subwoofer and some of the surroundings, apply some sound deadening material, and then we'll start testing our other speakers. Here we go. We're going to play our first track, Wiz Khalifa, On My Level. So that sounds pretty good from the factory. That's nice. So now we're gonna move on to another song. This is Gasolina by Daddy Yankee. Yeah, let's just say that 300 watts on the factory subwoofer does not sound good, and the amount of rattle you have does not sound good. So I gave you a reference point for power and sound. I'm now going to apply some sound deadening to the rear deck and then switch out the sub. It's time to apply our sound deadening material. Here are our 2 sheets. So what you're going to do is you're going to peel it away from this paper. You're going to stick it on the metal. Then you're going to take your box cutter and you're just going to score it like that, and then this way, and then after you score it, you just pull it away. You're going to apply it to the metal, and then with your roller you're going to roll it down. You really need to do this with force so that it sticks really well, because over time this will try to come off, and the more you roll it, the better it'll stick on. So I'm going to do the rear deck. I'm not going to show you all of it. I just want to show you how it's applied, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, so far I used one of my sheets, and at the top I don't really have much going on. Underneath is where I'm taking care of most of my sound deadening, and I'm going to keep covering this area with material as needed, but this is going to be a good starting point for me. When it comes to sound deadening, you want to make sure you pick good thick stuff. You don't want little thin stuff. It's not really going to kill rattle. You're going to have to use more of it. And then it's up to you. It's up to your discretion. People are always going to try to convince you need to cover the whole panel. But to actually kill vibrations, you only need to cover the important parts. So just use it with your own discretion and stay away from real thin, cheap stuff. Order the bracket package from us. It's going to come with a harness, 8 screws, and the bracket. The way this goes together is, depending on your subwoofer, you might need to cut these off and add more wire, or just hook this up directly to your sub. In our case, we are going to need to cut these. Then we're going to take extra wire, and then we're going to twist these together with this, twist this together with this, and this is going to be the first end that goes into our subwoofer. So our subwoofer has dual voice coils. So the first set of coils are going to go like this, and now we're just going to jump the wiring to the other side. Now our sub wiring is ready. Now we're going to install our woofer onto our bracket. So we're just going to slide this wiring out of the way, bring it over our woofer, flip it over, and then begin lining our holes up. You want to do this by hand. You don't want to do this with a gun, because you want these to be hand tight. Now this bracket design we are revamping. So this was the thicker bracket. It doesn't fit this sub, so we ended up making a thinner bracket. Now we're looking to make a bracket out of aluminum so that it's even thinner. So this bracket that comes with your sub might be different, but it's still going to take 8 holes to line up. Alright guys, I'm putting my last screw in. Something you want to be careful of is to not over tighten. So eventually your screw is just going to keep twisting. It's grabbed the most that it can, and if you try to push past that, you're going to bore out the hole. So you just want to tighten as much as you can. Once it starts to spin on its own but it's bottomed out, you want to leave it there. You don't want to force it more. And I know this may seem silly because you'll feel like it's not fully tight, but it is. I'm going to grab a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to pry here so I can just show you. I'm going to try to get between the woofer and the metal, and you could see I'm using force and they're not coming out. So just know they're in there good. We designed this to hold the subwoofer, and I actually bent the subwoofer up instead of breaking or releasing the screws from the bracket. Now this piece of foam is going to come with your woofer, so you're just going to apply it like so. We're going to line it up with this edge. If you feel like it's a little short, this material is, like you see I have a little bit of a gap, this material can be stretched. So if we go back, I can just begin stretching it as I'm putting it down, and you'll see that now I'm going to have more than enough to reach. So there we go. So there it is, fully complete, bracket, woofer assembled, and now we're going to get this in the car and listen to it. If you're using our bracket or our subwoofer package, you want to make sure after you mount your sub that you apply your foam gasket so that it seals against the rear deck real good. Now I'm going to install this. Something you need to be conscious of when you go and install a subwoofer back here is this angle. So you see as I go deeper down, I have less and less clearance. So if you're going to use a subwoofer with a huge magnet, you may not be able to snake it in here. For this one's going to fit no problems. I'm going to get my harness in there first, and then I'm going to line up my sub. So when we go to install our subwoofer, we're just going to drop it in place, we're gonna make sure that our biggest tab with the line here is on this corner, and then we'll line up the rest of our screw holes. We're gonna start by putting in this screw. It's easiest to lift up so you can see where the hole is, then let it drop in the hole, and then just start hand tightening it. Then you're gonna move to the opposite corner in the back. We're gonna line up our back corner, and the subwoofer does have some give in the way that it moves so that you can easily line it up. So you're just gonna do the same thing. You're gonna lift up a little, see where the hole is, line it up, and then start it by hand. So now that one's in. Now we're gonna move on to this one. This one's in. Again, you always want to start hand tightening so that you don't cross thread anything. And now this one is in. So after I've tightened them all a little bit, now I'm going to fully secure each one. You want to be careful. You don't want to over tighten because this is plastic on metal, so you can crush it. Once you start to get some serious resistance like I am now is when you want to stop. Now with our subwoofer mounted, we're just going to connect our harnesses. They're just going to clip right in place and we're good to go. Alright guys, so we're testing the sub we're planning to launch at the end of this year. We'll see how it sounds on the factory radio, factory power. Now we have our sub on the kicker key. Let's see what it sounds like.
In the middle of the night, early in the morning, from the streets to the sheets with some freaks. I ain't got
Yeah, it's just too much power. All right, let's switch to our gasolina song. Alright guys, so that's going to cover that sub. I'm going to move on to the SCAR sub next. Guys, we're back. It's another hot day, so I'm sweaty. I have the SCAR subwoofer installed. You can see that big boy surround sticking up. I don't know how the rear deck cover is going to go over that, but let's see what it sounds like. Excursion sub. So what that means is that the surround is built to go up and down like crazy, and you could see that that thing is almost touching the glass. It's moving so much that you could see that it looks from our angle like it's almost touching the rear windshield. So while this subwoofer sounds great, your problem is because of that huge surround, there's no way you're going to be able to put the factory rear deck cover back on and not have that touch that. I think what you're going to end up having to do is remove the factory surround altogether from the rear deck and add your own on top if you want to protect your woofer, or maybe just like a silk screen or like a carpet material like that has.
So soon, when I met you in the summer,
the value you get here is crazy, and with that kicker key, man, it's just the rattle. The rattle's gonna get to be too much. I don't know if you heard it at the end there. But all right, let me stop rambling. Let me move on to the next sub. Your Kicker Comp C subwoofer package comes with the subwoofer, the mounting bracket, the foam, and the screws all in the box. It also comes wired, so you don't have to do any wiring. So if you're looking for the harness, it's underneath the subwoofer. So your subwoofer is going to be already pre-wired. The terminals are going to be jumped together to give you a 2 ohm final impedance. This is a dual 4 ohm subwoofer. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our mounting bracket, we're going to slide it underneath and bring it up, and then we're going to line up our screw holes. So when you go to mount your subwoofer onto your mounting bracket, you want to make sure that you have it in this orientation. This right here has a flat line. All of the other ones are round, and this ear is bigger than all the other ears, and this is how it's going to install in the car, so you want to make sure you line it up that way. Your subwoofer, for the easiest install, you want to make sure that the kicker logo is straight and far away from you. In this orientation, the screw holes and the screws will line up no problem. When securing the mounting bracket to the subwoofer, you want to make sure you use hand tools so you're not stripping the plastic as you're tightening. And you'll see that once you get to the very bottom, it's going to continue to twist, but that screw is in there. You can move on to the next one. I do want to show you that even though this is thin plastic, it is mounted in there very firmly, and that this will hold very well. So you can see I just did damage to the actual woofer and the bracket before any screws released, and I'll go right near a screw, and you can see again I'm doing damage to the bracket and my woofer, and my screw is not releasing from its location. So it's nice and sturdy, it's gonna hold. So I wanted to show you that it's really gonna hold. You can see I did damage here. Before I install it in the car though, I do want to add my foam gasket. Your foam, you're just gonna wrap around the bottom of the woofer. So you could start right here, you're going along this edge, and you're just going fully around the entire woofer. You want to make sure you press down firmly. You want to make sure you press down firmly when you're applying this so it doesn't come off. And this is going to put a nice seal between the bracket and the metal deck of the car. Also, this is going to help with some rattles, so you want to make sure you do apply this foam. If you find yourself in this situation where you have leftover foam, all you have to do is take a box cutter. Our box cutter will line up where it's ending. So it's ending right there. Cut a little slit, pull it, and then we'll just bring it together to make it full. So now our subwoofer is secured to our bracket. Our bracket has the foam and all the mounting screws, and we're ready to add it to the car. Just a quick note, guys, if you have a previous version of this bracket and you want to use it to upgrade to one of these subwoofers, you can always drill new holes, because this Audison woofer is a little bit bigger than all the rest. So you see that my existing hole didn't line up, so I drilled all new holes, and you can do the same. This is plastic. All right, YouTube, so I got the Scar subwoofer out of there. I'm going to put the kicker sub in. It's already prepped, ready to go. We're just going to bolt it.
El DJ la pone y se la sabe toda. Se trepa en la mesa y que se joda. En el perreo no se quita. Fuma y se pone bellaquita.
I'm playing the Bad Bunny song because Gasolina just doesn't have a deep bass note, but I'm playing both so you can hear both. All right, now we're going to jump to Calvin Harris. Alright, so now we have kicker subwoofer. Barely surviving, baby. I can smell the glue on that kicker subwoofer. Yeah, so you're getting a lot of bass out of that woofer. It's being pushed to the max. So remember, that woofer is 200 watts RMS. The kicker key is rated 300 watts at 2 ohms, which is that woofer's wired. So we're at the limit of what this kicker Comp C woofer can do. It's only rated for 200 watts RMS. In the configuration we have it, the kicker key is putting out 300 watts RMS. The notes are going to vary when it's hitting 300 watts, but we're at like its limit. I can smell the glue burning up or getting warm. So if you're going to go with this combo, just be careful. But alright, that's going to wrap it up for the Comp C. We're going to move on to the Audison woofer now. Guys, that was the Audison sub. That thing stinks right now, man. I don't know if it's the voice coil burning up or the glue or something, but that thing stinks. But all right, let me move on to the next sub. Actually, We're now going to take a look at that AP8, and then we'll cover the kicker comp bar. Guys, just for fun, we're listening to the AP8. We're only going to do this on a factory amp and our plug-and-play amp. The kicker key is going to blow this thing up. And I'm going to show you all the woofers at the end, so if you're trying to figure out what they look like. Also, I'll give you my opinions on them when it comes to mounting and everything, all at the end. Right now, we're just going through. Yeah, it just can't handle the power. But hey, it didn't sound bad. I mean, we'll look at the math to see what this equates to, because you're getting two for the price of, you're getting two woofers. So like, is it cheaper than the Scar? Does it come out to the same price? This will be easy to install in the end because it's flat. So like, look, it's super flat. So you can easily get the rear deck cover back over it, I think, with no problem. But all right, guys, let's move on to the last woofer. That's going to be the Kicker Comp R. So here's our last subwoofer, all mounted, screwed in. Our wiring is done. This is the 48C WR84. This we also sell on our website. You can get a complete subwoofer upgrade package just like this one. All right, so now we're finally on the Kicker Comp R woofer. So this is the strongest woofer that we offer and the strongest woofer we're testing. It's rated for 300 watts RMS. We're going to see what it sounds like on the factory amplifier, on our plug and play, and on the kicker key. Let me get started with the factory. Oh my god. I hope I got my face on camera. That tweeter just screamed at me. Something I totally spaced on is, I've said it before, on the plug and play amp, you need to change your front speakers or at least protect your tweeters, because there's no bass blocker or any crossover to protect them. Your factory amplifier has a factory crossover and it runs a dedicated line to the tweeter. The plug and play amp combines the lines for the tweeter and the woofer, and then you end up with a full range signal to your tweeter, and it's eventually going to blow them. I'm surprised it hasn't blown them yet, but that scared me. All right, let's.
Ella perrea sola. Perrea sola. Perrea sola. Ay, ella perrea sola.
Alright YouTube, so we finished testing all our subwoofers. Now we need to prep our rear deck so we can put it back into the car and secure everything in place. As you can see, I still have the rear deck off. I'm going to apply some sound treatment to the rear deck cover, and then we'll get it mounted into place. Not even going to risk it. We're just going to cut this down. If you need to get this grill off, you can drill out these plastic welds, and then the actual grill, this piece right here, will come fully off. This is easier with a flush cutter, but if all you have is a box cutter, then this is what we'll use. You're going to make sure this is sharp, and then you're just going to cut into it like this. Turn that stupid angle. Okay, so you see my first cut. So now I'm gonna come at an angle and cut that piece off, come at another angle, until you can get the blade flush, and now you'll just start cutting around like this. This is going to take a little bit with this, but you'll get it done. All right, if you have an oscillating tool, it's way faster. It'll give you a cleaner edge. That's what we used here, but you could see that thing is entirely gone. It'll make putting this back on a lot easier. So before we put this back, we do want to add our own sound deadening material. So that's what you can see here. This padding is to reduce the rattle. I'm going to add some of the ballistic material right around where the subwoofer goes and on these edges. My brake light is missing right now, and that's because I do want to put sound deadening right around it, and it'd be easier with it out of the way. And my covers are also off right now, but those won't really matter. I just want to make sure I get all my sound deadening right. I have all my clips back, and I prep this piece really good before I put it back in the car. Here's what I have so far. Now I'm going to apply some of this foam padding just here on the end because it had some from the factory. So here's my final product. Has sound deadening material right here, and then some foam, and below it some more sound deadening material. I might add some here or some to the plastic in the car. We'll check that out next. Alright YouTube, I'm not gonna lie to you. This video should have been out like 2 weeks ago, but I ended up breaking the third brake leg. So this thing sucks. It gets in the way, and it actually led to some pretty good innovation on our bracket. We decided to make it thinner and make it out of metal. There's a whole video on that, you can go watch it, but I've tweaked the design now to make this easier, and I've also set up the subwoofer to make this easier. So make sure you follow those steps. So when you go to put this back on, it's not going to break on you. It's not going to have any problems. You're actually not going to have any problems putting it on. Is when I put it on and took it off, that then I couldn't get it off correctly because it was catching. So just beware of that. With the new bracket that you're getting shipped, it shouldn't be an issue. But just beware, you don't want to break this, have to buy a new one. They're universal. 2001 to 2020 Civic sedan is going to have it. Obviously, you could buy it from your TSX. Don't buy the one off Amazon. I'll put a picture. It doesn't fit. Here's what it looks like. The actual lens, but this is the actual assembly. But all right, let's get on with the video. I'm gonna put my actual light back in. Put the light back in. You're lining up this, and then you're gonna tilt forward first. Come on. There we go. So tilt forward first, and then tilt back, and now it's locked in place. All right, so this is probably gonna be the hardest part of the entire install. You want to make sure that these white clips back here on this side and the opposite side haven't fallen off. You want to make sure you have all your retaining clips out so that you don't have to go get them later. To actually get our rear deck back on, we're going to slide one corner in first, and then we're going to come up and over and slide our other corner. You see how we're clearing our subwoofer with no issue. You want to watch your speakers. So this little right here, this little retaining clip is going to want to scratch your speaker on each side. So you want to watch those, and then you want to watch that you don't get jammed. So right here I'm jammed a little bit, so I'm going to come forward and I'm going to start sliding over. And here's where you want to be super careful with your light. That light will break. It will be annoying to replace, so you want to be super careful. I can't film and do this, so I'm going to throw you over here. I'm going to let you watch me, and I'll show you how I maneuver it around. So this wasn't out, make sure yours is. So now we'll bend and push back. Just don't want to get jammed up, so we'll come over here a little bit. Again, keep bending, pushing back, bending, pushing back. And it's just clearing our light. You're just gonna massage it a little. Okay, we're almost there. There we go. Alright, so just like that, we're over the rear deck. Just be super careful with that light. I broke it last time, I didn't this time. What actually broke it wasn't putting it in, was taking it out. We're not leaving our kicker sub in here. We're gonna put a different sub in here. So I'm gonna have to pull this back out. But I'm first gonna show you how to secure everything before I do that. We got our rear deck on. What you want to be careful of is that the clips we're gonna touch right here. So check your speakers that you didn't rip them, putting this back on. And then we can really slide it into place. And you'll see that all our clip holes start to line up. And then we can begin clipping it in. Now this clip right here might give you some issue, so you're just gonna have to use a little bit of force to get it down. And now right around our sub, there are no clips. So in here and here are two retaining clips that aren't going to hold. So mine aren't in. I'm gonna show you the secret with the longer retaining clip I was talking about earlier in the video. All right guys, before I put those clips in, I put my covers back on. I wanna see how bad this will rattle if we don't install those clips. This is a test. I'm going to install them. I just want to see how bad it'll rattle with. I show you that, I'm going to put the clips in and we'll see the clips help with this at all. If not, we're going to have to use a lot of foam around the surround of the woofer to deal with that vibration. So normally these are used for your C-pillars, but you can use them on the rear deck to add space between the rear deck and the rear deck cover. Let me show you how. So with the same clip as the C-pillar clips, let me show you. Right there, that same clip on here, I'm going to put one here where one's missing. That's going to add enough of a height to to install our subwoofer and allow the surround to not touch the top of the woofer. That white clip in there, so straight down, and then on this side, straight down. So right there, both clips are in. My rear deck is now nice and sturdy. You can see this isn't touching, but that's what we need because we need that extra space for all that extra bass. Alright, I was way too hot in the car, I had to get out of there. So the bracket that you saw me use is our newest revision, and it's probably about this thick. It's thinner than the old bracket so that the third brake light can go right over, no problem. We are actually making it thinner, and we're making it out of metal, and I think this is what's going to be necessary if you want to push 300 or more watts back there. I don't recommend pushing that much power because you're really straining that subwoofer, whatever subwoofer you pick, to do 300 watts in a free air environment. But if that's what you want, I would say wait for the thinner bracket. End of September it should be here. If you don't want to push 300 watts, you're fine with the factory amplifier or the plug and play amplifier. Then you don't have to go as crazy as I did. You don't need to use those clips. You could have just sat the rear deck back on, let all the clips that go in, and left those two loose. It wouldn't have been a problem. All right, that's how I'm going to leave my rear deck with those clips in there. I'm going to put all the panels back to show you that everything fits. And I'm actually going to swap the subwoofer. So the kicker subwoofer's in there now. We're going to put our own subwoofer in there just because we need to further test it. So I'm going to do that real quick off camera, and then I'll show you how all the panels go back on. So our rear deck is back on. Everything's clipped in place. We left this clip and this clip out, and we have no rattle. It does not matter. You can add them depending on your subwoofer. I showed you what to do. Now we're going to clip this piece back on. Remember, this has clips that clip right onto there, so we're going to get those lined up first. This seatbelt, slide this one through. All right, so now we just want to make sure all our clips are in here. We can see we still have some looseness, so you just want to make sure all those clips are in. All right, so now we got this piece back in. Now we want to do our seat pillars. I'm gonna let you hear what it sounds like with this together. Remember, I did a lot of sound deadening. You need to make sure you do that too, so you minimize the rattle.
I'm on my level, yeah, I'm on my level, yeah, I'm on my level, so I take one shot to.
You want to make sure you have all your clips in place before you attempt to put this back, otherwise you're going to have a poor time with installation. So I'm going to show you how this one goes on first. I'm going to try to do it without getting in the way. But first you want to come in, you want to slide the bottom in so the bottom hooks onto both sides. Then you want to come to the top, and you want to start clipping in your clips. Then here, the big one, it's going to be hard. I'm going to try to get it on camera. You're going to want to sneak it into its spot. Hold on, let me open this door. So we want this out of the way. And then you want to line it up with its hole. There you go. And then just collapse like that. And now it's in there tight. It won't come out. And you're good. You can now put this back. So, oh, hold on. I have one clip here that hasn't gone in. Open this up. There we go. So now that clip is in. This is nice and tight, and you can see it's nice and sealed. The opposite side, same thing. You're gonna slide the bottom in first. So how the hell does this thing go? This thing goes like this. So this, and this need to line up with the bottom. So get those in first. Then you can hook in. Then you want to get your clips in. So there we go. Then you want to get your big hook clip in. So the big clip is in now. And now I want to get this lower bottom clip. There we go. So now it's back. And then I'm going to add my weather stripping right where it was. With both my seat pillars back, I'm now going to add the seats back. I will tell you, you want to have clean hands when doing this. I'm bloody and stuff and dirty. So this side's dirty. This side's a little dirty. I'm going to clean them up. But just don't do that. Don't put yourself in that situation where you have to clean them. It's real annoying to clean these and you don't want to stain it. But I'm going to put this side bolster back, this side bolster back. We'll wrap everything up. Our seats are all back. It doesn't even look like we ever took them out. Our subwoofer is in there. Something you don't want to forget to do is to put your light bulb for your third brake light back. So you're just gonna plug it in and screw it in place. All right, YouTube, that was a rough 2 or 3 weeks filming that video, but like everything, you'll get through it. So if you're doing with something right now, shout out to you. You're gonna get through it. Times will get better. Bad times don't last forever. I'm trying to think if I have anything to really tell you about the video. Subwoofer choice is going to be up to you. We have the kicker subwoofer package. We have the bracket. It fits multiple subwoofers now. Before that was a limitation. The new bracket's coming out soon. We're doing the video on the radio. We're doing the speaker radio. There's still a lot to come for your TSX, so make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to think if there's any pointers I can give you. With the rear deck, just be careful with that rear light. If you do break it, you can buy a new one. You're going to scratch up your hands. Just be prepared for that. It's hot. It's going to take some time. I want to say 2 hours, 3 hours. If you're doing it yourself, you could probably, if I was rushing that job, like let's say you came to my shop and I had to rush through it for whatever reason, I think you can get through it in an hour and a half, maybe an hour. If you've never done this before, I suggest 3 hours. If you're looking to get this done at a shop, they're probably going to bill you for 3 hours. So whatever 3 hours of the time is, usually 125, 150. Sometimes $100, so keep that in mind. You might spend 300 plus 120 on the subwoofer, so like $400 altogether. It's up to you. If you do it yourself, you can follow the guide, show you how to do it. If you have a different Acura, ILX, TLX, TL, RLX, they're all extremely similar. The link in the description or the link in this video has the instructions on how to get it out. It's not a video, but it has written instructions each step by step with diagrams on how to get stuff out. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. As always, give the video a like, and if you are interested in more content for your Acura TSX, make sure you subscribe. We have a lot more planned. Here's the factory sub. Here's the Audison sub. This is the actual subwoofer. This was the AP8, so you can see it's much smaller. And this was the Scar. I'm going to show you the kicker subwoofer next. This is something we're going to throw in there just to test. This is a Power Base 8. And it's just a little full range speaker. We'll see how that sounds.